Hello there and welcome to the ALEC 50th annual meeting here in the great state of Florida. Joining me today right now to give us a little bit about his home state is Mr. David Ray, state representative from the great state of Arkansas. David, welcome to the show.
Hey, good afternoon, Lars. Good to see you.
Nice to have you here. So, you said earlier that you started off in Tennessee.
Well, Tennessee is where I was born and grew up. I grew up about 20 miles north of Memphis and moved to Arkansas to go to college. But, interestingly, Tennessee is one of the handful of states that has no income tax. And I think that's what we're going to talk about today is how to get Arkansas to that.
It's like how you couldn't convince the good people of Arkansas to adopt this Tennessee way of life.
That's right.
Or as we're saying, what we have right here in Florida is the way of life. So right now, Arkansas, with the push that you're trying to get with that, I mean, how much pushback are we getting to eliminate the state income tax?
Well, I will say we've made a lot of progress already. So if you go back 8 to 10 years ago, Arkansas's top personal income tax rate was 7.0%. We were the highest state in the entire Southeast. We were one of the highest states in the country. And over the last 8 or 9 years, the legislature has really made some strides in chipping away at this income tax. Our top rate now is 4.7%. So we've already eliminated approximately a third of our income tax. We just left lunch where Governor Ron DeSantis gave a really, really inspiring speech. And one of the things he said, bragging on Florida's no income tax status, he said, if you're from a state that has one, you should try it our way. And I couldn't agree more, because if we think about, all taxes disincentivize some type of activity, right? But the income tax in particular, if you think about what it disincentivizes work and labor and productivity. Like, these are all things that we should want more of as a society, more job creation, more economic growth.
Yeah, that's very true. And we see that sometimes. And it's interesting because when you think of a state like Arkansas, I would think for the past decade or so, we'll say, you've had usually a conservative legislature, people who agree on something with less regulation, less taxes. And you've had conservative governors as well. So people who would sign such bills. And what was actually slowing things down? Was it just the whole idea that not having state income tax, what do? We don't know where to go from there.
Yeah, I think we've been moving in the right direction. But over the last decade, there's been really a lack of urgency, right? We've been on what I like to call the 50-year plan or the 100-year plan. And the problem with that plan is, Lars,
it takes 50 and 100 years.
You and I are going to be dead in 100 years, okay? So I'm not really interested in the 100-year plan. I'm interested in what can we do right now in our lifetime to turn Arkansas into a pro-growth, freedom-oriented economic engine that's going to be great for the people that live here, so they have high-quality, good-paying jobs, so that we can attract businesses to create the jobs of tomorrow in our state. And so that's one of many reasons that this is really important to me. And I will say that our new governor, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, has said, she campaigned on a goal of getting us toward a point where we can phase out the state income tax to totally eliminate it. And I support that 100%. So I think there's more momentum behind this idea than we've ever had before. And it's thanks to, number one, it's a good idea that the public supports. But number two and three, we have a legislature that is now philosophically inclined to move in that direction, and a governor who has cast a positive vision for the future to take us to a better place tomorrow than where we are today. And I'm very excited about what we can accomplish together.
So how long have you been spending these legislative sessions in Little Rock?
I was elected in 2020, so I'm in my third year in the legislature.
Wow, right in there, right, and getting your hands dirty right off the bat.
Right, yeah. So, look, there are a lot of naysayers. I'm not going to diminish that fact. When I first started talking about this idea many years ago, a lot of the lobbyists and the folks in Little Rock would just sort of roll their eyes and say, "Oh, well, that can never happen," right? Because a lot of these folks had existed in a political ecosystem where we just didn't cut taxes, right? If more revenue came in, we just spent it.
Yeah.
But once you shift that paradigm and from a spend everything that comes in to an understanding that, hey, if government collects more money than we budgeted for, that means we taxed too much and we spent too much. and we need to return some of that money to the people who paid the taxes in the first place.
Well, as a relatively new legislator, then, I mean, is this your first time in an ALEC meeting? I'll ask you that part. Or have you been here before?
No. I've been to several ALEC meetings before. In fact, I started going to ALEC meetings before I was elected. I went to my first ALEC meeting back either in 2016 or 17.
Wow!
When I was at the time I was state chairman for our Americans for Prosperity chapter.
Okay.
In Arkansas, and saw the value of ALEC then. It truly does what the name says. It is a legislative exchange of ideas, and you get to meet people from all over the country, from different regions of the country, people who are facing some of the same issue battles that you're facing in your state, sometimes different issue battles, and you get a different perspective on things. I was talking to a lawmaker this morning from Kentucky, talking to a lawmaker this morning from West Virginia. And that's one of the many things I find value in, is just being able to connect with different lawmakers who are going through some of the same challenges we are, and comparing notes, really, to help solve problems in our state.
Because when I first heard of the organization, that's one of the things that impressed me, because everybody's going to run into the same problems eventually. And if you have somebody who's already gone through those battles, might as well find out, which fork in the road they took and where the pitfalls may lay.
And the policy is so sound at this conference. I mean, it's been about the same thing for 50 years. It's been about limited government, free markets, and federalism. And there's a million conferences you can go to where they will teach you how to grow government. This is not that conference. And so I always come to this conference I try to come to as many of these as I can. And I come with the goal of trying to find at least one concrete, tangible idea that I can bring back to my state and try to implement for the betterment of Arkansans.
But now you're just strictly sticking to the elimination of the state tax. You're not looking for anything else.
Well, I think that's a big thing that we need to keep talking about. Yeah. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take many years to phase out that big of a chunk of state revenue. But look, as I talked about with what our governor's doing, if you don't cast a vision and tell people where we're going to go, that we're going to take you to a better place tomorrow than where we are today, then people have no reason to follow you, right? And so I think it's imperative to just continue educating voters on what we're doing and why we're doing it, why this will be so beneficial for the people of Arkansas, and just keep beating the drum on this, because it's that important, and it's not going to happen if we don't continually talk about where we're going with it.
All right. Well, what does the next session open up?
Well, we just ended our fiscal year, and we ended with a surplus of over $1 billion, $1.1 billion.
Now there's some governing.
Well, now to put that in perspective, our general revenue budget is just over $6 billion. So our surplus represents almost a quarter of our state general revenue, and we have almost a quarter of our state general revenue in reserve and long-term reserves, I should say. We have $2.5 billion in our reserve fund. But this is the third year in a row that we have run surpluses of either right at or over $1 billion. And so when you do that year after year after year, like, that's a telltale sign that we're taking too much money out of workers' pockets. So I think we're going to see some pretty substantial, substantive tax reductions on the income tax side within the next calendar year in the state of Arkansas.
That's fantastic. One last thing, especially for a state like Arkansas. Can you believe that Oklahoma joined the SEC?
Yeah, I'm still not really sure what to think about that. You sort of take it as a compliment that everybody wants to join, be part of
the big boy club.
Yeah, the great thing we have going. But I'm not really sure Oklahoma is the South. I mean, it's debatable, right? At least
it might be going a little bit too far.
Definitely not Southeast.
Not at all. All right. Well, thank you very much. That was State Representative David Ray from the great state of Arkansas joining us here at the ALEC 50th annual meeting in Orlando.